AM 1050 WLIP. Welcome in another Saturday morning. And that means another edition of The Truth About Weight Loss. I'm Pete, joined now by the founder and chief health strategist of Wayless MD and Wellness. She's Sherry Stoka. Sherry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing great. How are you, Pete?
Doing well, enjoying the nice long holiday weekend. It's going to be beautiful. Hopefully everybody's enjoying some of that. And in the meantime, we're going to talk, as we always do, about the truth about weight loss. Sherry, and today we have got a very hot topic to tackle.
Yes. We are going to dig into semaglutide. And since it is the most talked about medication on the planet right now, I thought it would be, a really good topic, a really good opportunity, again, to get some maybe more accurate information out there.
Well, we talk about it as semaglutide. It goes under a couple of different names, but I think based on whichever name it comes under, it's meant to do similar things, but sort of different aspects of the same effect, correct?
Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting point because there's multiple medications that kind of fall under the same category. And it's very surprising that all of a sudden, semaglutide or Wegovy, in the brand name Wegovy, kind of hit the market and just exploded. But there are other medications on the market that are similar class of drugs doing similar mechanism of actions. And the main things that they're really hitting on is appetite suppression, insulin sensitivity, and really satiety, like fullness. When people are on these medications, they just don't have the desire to eat as much as they normally would.
And on that point, I'll just do full disclosure. I've been on semaglutide now for several months, and that's the first effect, or the first thing I noticed was that it's not that you're not hungry. I mean, you have the desire to eat, but it seems like you get fuller faster. And one of the big adjustments for me was the amount of food. You just simply cannot and really don't want to eat as much as you did before.
Yeah, absolutely. And two things are happening, so you have the signaling that's happening in the brain that kind of controls hunger, and then you also have this slowed or delayed gastric emptying. So food is not clearing your stomach as it normally would. So when it stays there, people they feel fuller longer, so you definitely, it causes you to eat less.
And it's one of those things where you either adjust or you don't. There's really no alternative. I mean, think of the biggest meal. This is what I liken it to: the biggest meal you've ever consumed, and how full you feel after eating that large amount of food. You can get that discomfort if you're not careful. So you want to make sure that you're eating the proper amount. And once you get through that adjustment period, and I know you ramp up the amount of the medication you get as well. Once you kind of figure that out, it's really great because it's almost freeing, Sherry, from always having to think of, well, when is that next meal coming? Sort of that mentality that you get into sometimes because you just don't feel as hungry. And the sugar cravings and really the cravings for the bad stuff are quite a bit reduced.
Yeah, we are hearing so many different so many different experiences that people are having while on this medication. And, obviously we can get into we're going to get into so many different things, but it really, obviously it's a medication. We're changing, we're changing, your physiology, normal physiology, because what this medication does is what would happen is if you would eat food, and it literally is helping people eat healthier, making better choices. They're not tempted by, the smells or going into a gas station and seeing donuts, and, because food is around us at all times. And it really is minimizing those temptations that, are basically 24/7.
One of the things I had always struggled with was eating sweets. As you well know, I enjoy my desserts. And I think this was just last weekend, as a matter of fact, or maybe it was Mother's Day Sunday. we had some brownie bites, and I had one of them, and I'm telling you, they were bite sized. They were pretty small, but the phenomenon after I ate that was it was good, and I went, I have absolutely zero desire to have a second one. And I don't want to overstate things, but I was sitting there, and even after all this time, just kind of surprised by how little that desire is there. And I guess it goes to show you really more of what we're dealing with when it comes to being tempted to eat some of those things that we know otherwise wouldn't be good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really important to spend a little time talking about what semaglutide can do, outside or aside from just suppressing the appetite. Semaglutide improves insulin sensitivity. And, again, we talk about, or I am like always, I feel like I'm always bringing up like blood sugars and insulin levels because that is really the driver of your metabolic health. The majority of people, almost 90% of people, or Americans, I should say, have some type of metabolic dysfunction. And the driver of that is insulin sensitivity, meaning that when you consume food or when you consume carbohydrates, carbohydrates turn to sugar. Sugar, your blood goes into your bloodstream, and insulin is meant to pull the sugar out of the blood and put it into the muscle to be used for energy. When you have insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, that insulin is not taking the sugar out of your blood. So when that sugar sits in your blood, that's when it causes all sorts of problems. But it also makes it very difficult to lose weight because the sugar will ultimately be pushed into your fat stores if it can't get into the muscle to be used for energy. So, all the talk out there about semaglutide and, it suppresses your appetite, that's just a part of what it's doing. It's actually really healing and repairing that insulin part.
And we hear this, if you look at these commercials, and see the advertised, I have the Ozempic jingle going in my brain. Ozempic. I won't sing, but you know what I mean? Like these things do get marketed, and usually for diabetes, and I think that was what they were first approved for. But the FDA, especially with semaglutide, and it seems like semaglutide was on the forefront of this one, the FDA recently approved it for weight loss as well, not just for diabetics.
Yeah, so Ozempic is also semaglutide. Wegovy, which is the newer one on the market, which is the one that we use, is semaglutide as well. It's the same thing. The only difference between Ozempic and Wegovy is the marketing. It is different dosing, and it's the indications that have been approved for it. So Wegovy is now approved for weight loss in addition to type 2 diabetes. And Ozempic, did you say, I'm not sure if Ozempic is approved for weight loss. I think it's just approved for type 2 diabetes.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so weight loss, when they got that indication and the FDA approved Wegovy for weight loss, that's what really exploded. And just to clarify a little bit more about what that means not for weight loss necessarily, but for obesity versus type 2 diabetes. So obesity meaning, driven by the BMI. So if you have a BMI of 27 or higher with a comorbidity, meaning, maybe you have high blood pressure, then that would be approved by insurances, whereas, with the other medications, you have to have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, that's an important clarification because I just think semaglutide under different names is the same thing. But you're right, the dosing is different, and the insurance companies look at these things a different way than maybe we would from the health perspective. But I hear all sorts of things too, and it's part of the marketing, but even in the news coverage of what someone can expect to achieve when you take semaglutide. So let's talk about that. I mean, we talked about some of the things that happen sort of internally, but let's face it, people want to know about the weight loss side of these things. So if you get going on semaglutide, what can you expect as far as weight loss goes?
Yeah, so again, I think it's just important to note that, everybody is different, right?
Right.
And, it's also really important to look at like the whole picture. What else are they doing? What other changes are people making? When people come to us and they want to start semaglutide, we're definitely, addressing the nutrition part. So what I would say is we have patients who choose to continue, what they were doing, not necessarily great habits, and they don't see as good of results as the people who are really cleaning up their diet and kind of following our recommendations. And so I would say the average weight loss that we're seeing is approximately 10 to 12 to 13 pounds a month.
Wow. So that's really getting those great results. And you're right, it's not just the magic of taking semaglutide. The great thing about Way Less MD and Wellness is no matter what program you're on, you're always going to talk about the nutrition. You're going to talk about the eating habits, some of those things that, and maybe we'll touch on this a little bit later, but sort of open the can of worms now. Some of the breathless reporting I hear about semaglutide is people go off it and they gain the weight back. Oh, no. Well, that's not a fault with the medication. That's probably a fault of the behavior of the patient, right?
Yeah, that just information that's out there just kind of drives me a little nuts. But so what's really important is to simplify it. If you go into a weight loss program with metabolic dysfunction and you complete a weight loss program with metabolic dysfunction, you're very vulnerable to lose the weight back, to gain the weight back. So you have to really look at your state of health. If you go into, a weight loss program such as semaglutide with metabolic dysfunction and you get better, you lose 30 pounds, and now you're off of medications, you no longer have these cravings, the signs are looking positive as far as your health, then you're in a healthier state. The likelihood of you maintaining that weight loss is significant. So those are the things that we, as a business look at, because we are looking at those signs and symptoms of metabolic health. And a big piece to that is like the belly fat, the visceral fat, that type of thing, because that's really the driver of all the other issues related to, metabolism and things like that.
She is Sherry Stoka. It's The Truth About Weight Loss on AM 1050 WLIP, talking about semaglutide, which you've probably heard about. And we love doing The Truth About Weight Loss because hopefully it clarifies some of the things you've heard on this topic, like a lot of the other ones we tackle. But when I first started thinking about taking semaglutide, like any other prescription, you start to wonder about side effects. And, there is, and I know you guys keep track of them after somebody starts on semaglutide, but talk a little bit about what some of those side effects could be and maybe what to look out for once you would get started on the medication.
Yes, so the side effects are largely digestive. I will say, though, there can be some side effects related to your heart rate. It can have an effect on that. But because semaglutide is what we consider a glucagon-like peptide, its mechanism of action is happening in the gut. So many people, well, I shouldn't say many. If there's going to be side effects, it's usually going to be something along the lines of diarrhea, constipation, bloating. Some may experience reflux or exacerbated reflux if you were someone who already had reflux issues. So I would say those are the main ones that we've been seeing, and I would say probably 15% of our patients experience those symptoms.
Yeah, it's one of those where I was sort of on alert when I started, and I have to say, I really very minimum for many of those side effects. Certainly none of the digestive ones really, and I've been actually very pleased about that. And I was actually comparing notes to other people I know who are on another semaglutide product, I think Ozempic in that case, and kind of going back and forth. And it just seems like all of that is so very minimal. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but, it's not detrimental to the process. You can certainly cope with it and it doesn't last very long either. That's the other nice thing. Like you feel better and you get the benefit of the medication.
Yeah, definitely. So the symptoms, typically, what the research has found is that they are transient. So they tend to go away over time. You know, your body, the first month, your body's really adjusting to the medication, and so after like the second month, usually those things go away. Now, what I will say, what's really important is there are certain things to definitely watch for because this is a medication that is working in the gut. So people that have gallbladder issues, meaning, maybe they've had gallbladder attacks or they've had gallbladder stones, this medication actually can enhance or exacerbate those issues. So we do look closely at people who come with a history of gallbladder issues, as well as pancreatitis. If you've had a history of pancreatitis, that is definitely something that we're talking to people, if not, recommending a different program altogether, because those are two things that we're looking at. And then, of course, there are contraindications for the medication as well.
So when somebody comes into Way Less MD and Wellness and says, I'm interested in semaglutide, obviously there are certain things you would evaluate as to whether or not they would be a good candidate for this type of medication.
Oh yeah, we do a full medical assessment, and we're looking into all that. You're signing a very comprehensive consent because there are contraindications that are absolutely out of the question for you to start semaglutide, and that would be two of the big ones, or the main ones, the only ones really, are a thyroid cancer, so specific thyroid cancer called medullary thyroid carcinoma, and then the other one is called multiple endocrine neoplasia. So these are two conditions that we would not start someone on semaglutide with.
She's Sherry Stoka. It's Way Less MD and Wellness is Truth About Weight Loss on AM 1050 WLIP. Talking about semaglutide today and whether or not this might be something that you want to check into. And kind of just going through some questions maybe people would have or would want to have answered when they're going through that process of discovery. Is this going to be good enough for me? And I think one of the things that people might ask is how long am I going to be on this and how often do I have to take it?
Yes. So really, when we're working with patients, it's really about what their goal weight is. And so there's many different ways to approach this. What we'll tell people is that, you can be on the medication until you reach your goal weight. And then obviously afterwards, we're going to work with you on a plan moving forward so that you maintain. So that's typically what we're doing. So if it only takes you 3 months to get to your goal weight, then you have to be on the medication for 3 months. If you need to lose more than that, then you can stay on it for longer. However, what I will say is that people do really love what the medication does for them. Meaning, let's say they're not necessarily continuing to lose weight, but it's really helping them maintain their weight because of, the temptations and the cravings and things like that. So we have like maintenance programs where we're giving them like a lower dose for a longer period of time. So there's definitely different ways to go about it.
I know for me, what was one of the concerns I had after starting it is, well, what happens sort of post semaglutide? I'm not there yet, but I'm count me in as one of those ones who's like, I really like the effects of this, the not being tempted towards sugary foods, the staying fuller longer, those type of practical aspects of this. I could see where people are like, I might want to stay on this long term.
Yeah, definitely. I just did a testimonial with one of our patients a couple weeks ago, and it was really discussing life after semaglutide because she had lost almost 40 pounds on semaglutide, and then she was 5 months out, and she continued to lose weight after semaglutide. She did not have any cravings come back. Her appetite was controlled. So she continued the healthy habits, right? She wasn't perfect. She would say, I still go out to restaurants, I still enjoy things, but because she got her body into a healthier metabolic state while she was on semaglutide, that, that's what's supposed to happen afterwards. Your body is supposed to, do all of those right things that semaglutide was doing while she was on it. But, she didn't have the cravings because she was in a healthier state. She didn't, she had more muscle mass. She was, still moving and exercising. So all of those things just came together and allowed her to just get, continued benefits.
So I would guess when it comes to the maintenance part of semaglutide, to achieve those lasting results, we're talking on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to, the individual, right? What are you willing to change? What are you willing to continue to do? Because, let's face it, we the majority of people have some pretty bad habits. And if you go back to those habits, I mean, I'm not saying once in a while is not bad, but if you go back to what you were doing, of course you're going to gain the weight back. I wrote an article about this. Like, we can't be naive to think that going on a medication for a period of time is going to provide us lasting results. And people are still talking about this, like in the media. I laugh so much because they're talking back and forth to each other. These are highly educated people saying, so is this medication going to have lasting results for people? And it's like, they're not sure. It's all about what the person does afterwards.
I want to tug at that thread a little bit more, but we're up against a break here because I think a lot of this goes to just our attitudes and some of the information or misinformation about weight loss in general. But we're going to pick up on that after the break. She is Sherry Stoka, Wayless MD and Wellness at waylessmd.com. A great place to go. If you want to learn more information on Pete, we're going to grab the break. You're listening to The Truth About Weight Loss on AM 1050 WLIP. Stick around. Welcome back. It's The Truth About Weight Loss on AM 1050 WLIP. Pete here with you on this Saturday morning, joined once again by Sherry Stoka from Wayless MD and Wellness, Southport Plaza in Kenosha, waylessmd.com for more information on this and all of the topics that you hear us talk about. 10 o'clock Saturday mornings, you're live and local truth tellers when it comes to weight loss. Sherry, I like that. Truth tellers. We sound real official then.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And we're talking today about semaglutide, which, as we mentioned before, comes under different names, and it does sort of different aspects of the same thing, depending on which name and approval it's under. But we've been talking about it, especially in the weight loss context, which is what you might imagine at Wayless MD and Wellness. And I want to delve kind of back in, Sherry, to where we left off before the break. And that's sort of the idea that it's not a magic pill or magic injection, if you will. Like, you do have to combine it, the medication, with a healthy lifestyle. And I know that at Wayless MD and Wellness, no matter what program somebody starts, you're always going to emphasize the healthy lifestyle aspect of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started the business to help people and their health journey, right? To improve their health, not just get weight off. I mean, even though the focus of, the world we live in, the modern world we live in, it's all about the weight. And I always just firmly believe that if I could get somebody into a healthier state, whether that be metabolic, hormonal, your gut health, then weight loss is not only easier, but it's sustainable. Because if you just focus on the weight, then and not really acknowledging all the other things that are going on, that's why we kind of keep entering that vicious cycle of we lose, we gain, we lose, we gain more, and it just continues.
You mentioned some of the talking heads or even educated talking heads on TV or on the internet that go back and forth and is this going to work? What is the outcome going to be? I think when we talk about weight loss in general, people expect it to be hard. And what I mean by that is if there is some way that makes it easy or a little bit more straightforward, people have this maybe healthy skepticism of whether or not it's going to work, the hitting the easy button type of thing. Or you can liken it to some of those products you get in the pharmacy that promise all this weight loss, and it's just some kind of trickery with extra caffeine or whatever it is. So I think people, sort of react with that skepticism because, if you're not beating yourself up and punishing yourself for enjoying yourself, you're not going to lose weight, obviously. It just seems to me that that's some of the mentality.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And, the magic pill per se, right? I mean, that's kind of the mentality, looking for that magic pill. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, this medication is probably as close as I've seen, like the magic pill, come to fruition. I mean, because it really, people can lose weight by I mean, I hate to even say this, but we are seeing people have, some results even by continuing these bad habits, but that only will last a certain amount of time, and then that's when we talk about, okay, what happens after. It's those people that are relying on the magic pill during their time on semaglutide are the ones that gain the weight back almost immediately because they have not changed their metabolic health. They were relying on the semaglutide to change their metabolic health. So then afterwards, that's when these people are talking, they're online or on all these different platforms saying, oh, I gained the weight right back, it doesn't work, this and that. And it's you really just have to know how it works and what to do afterwards.
I like to do analogies. And
Yes.
with this, it's sort of liken it to learning how to ride your bike. If you have the training wheels, well, you're not going to tumble over. But if you don't really learn how to ride the bike and just rely on the training wheels, you're going to get on a two-wheeler and tumble over. And I hope you wore your helmet, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. It sort of gives you the boost up. It enhances what your body could do naturally if it was allowed to. So allow it to, use that boost, use those training wheels to set yourself up for long-term success.
Absolutely. I mean, that's ultimately, that could apply to anything in our life, right? I mean, we can go through the motions and get by, with almost anything. And I just was having a conversation with my younger son the other day, and we were talking about, because he was during exams and, doing his final exams, and he's like, yeah, they don't allow us to do the exams at home because people are cheating. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, that's why, and he even said, he's like, I don't understand why people would cheat. I mean, it's only hurting themselves. And I'm like, oh, see, that's good. I'm glad you answered like that. So it's all about it. It truly is. You're only hurting yourself if you're trying to cheat your way through it.
You're going to get me off on a tangent here, but I think about this in the gym all the time. Because the temptation is to, cut a few reps or maybe cut something a little short. And I go, yeah, but, I'm choosing to be here and I'm not going to get the benefit if I cut myself, if I cheat myself out of that.
100%. I mean, it really can be applied to so many different scenarios.
Yeah, it's an important mentality. And that's what I love about going through my own weight loss journey and we've talked about this before off the air many times, sort of getting the mental aspect of it in line and then applying it to this or to like many other things. If you can have a healthy thought process and like your son was saying, looking at it logically, right? Like I'm trying to get the benefit out of this. That's going to go such a long way towards long-term success.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, she is Sherry Stokitz, Way Less MD and Wellness. Truth about weight loss on AM 1050 WLIP. So let's talk a little about the semaglutide journey, if you will, especially at Way Less MD and Wellness. So you're on semaglutide. You're working for that metabolic health. Is there any other treatments you use in conjunction with semaglutide to help getting some of those lasting results?
Yeah, so obviously we talk about, I don't have to get into the food part anymore because, of course we're really trying to build, teach certain things about how to concoct healthy meal plans and things like that. But the other part to semaglutide is we recommend a number of different supplements while on semaglutide, just because of the nature of the medication. I mean, at the end of the day, it still is a medication, and it's doing certain things in your body. So one of the things that we will recommend while on semaglutide is, a supplement that would really support the liver and the gallbladder, because like I said, because you get that slowed gastric emptying, you are more at risk for gallbladder issues. So we like to give a supplement that's going to help the gallbladder, the liver as well, because people are losing a significant amount of fat, and fat stores our body stores all of like the toxins that we consume and breathe every single day in the fat stores. So when you start to mobilize and burn those fat stores, those toxins will come out. We had talked about this last time, but they come out into circulation. So some people don't, they don't feel well, at the beginning. They feel a little nauseous, when they first start taking semaglutide. So we'll give what we call binders that actually do a really nice job at binding those toxins as they're coming out, and then then they're able to excrete a lot easier. So that's really important. The other thing that I think is worth talking about, because I see it as a problem, and it is those people that are relying on such a low calorie diet because they're thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I'm not hungry. So then they undereat. And when they undereat, now the body is actually starting to burn muscle. And now they're actually starting to develop nutrient deficiencies because they're not getting the protein. They're not eating the fruits and vegetables that they should be eating. So now their body is going quickly into an unhealthier state because of the food that they're not consuming.
And that's where sort of calorie counting, and I'm not a very accurate calorie counter necessarily, like down to the calorie, but having sort of an idea. Usually we think of it in keeping less calories, but in this case, it's eating enough calories. So again, just kind of keeping a thumbnail tab of what you're doing throughout the day. And sort of the other side of that is when we talk about eating your veggies, because that's going to fill you up. If you eat a lot of the spinach and the cucumbers and the tomatoes, that's all good stuff, and you continue to do it, but maybe your salad portion size is just a little bit, making sure you get the protein and the calories and all that good stuff, but some of that, because you're going to get fuller faster. So it's sort of that portion control, but making sure you're still eating enough at the same time.
Well, and what's interesting about it, and what we're noticing, is that because of the appetite suppression, people tend to go to the easily digestible foods, such as the carby foods, and they're not eating as much protein, and they're not eating as much vegetables because vegetables are filling. So that's where we really need to make sure we're talking with our patients all the time. I mean, those things are just crucial. And then, obviously protein is it's number one. You have to have enough protein to build muscle. But to get back to our point of like the supplements and all of that, so we will recommend a multivitamin for some patients when we're noticing that the diet is just continuously really low calorie.
And you mentioned about how your body is going to feel with starting any process of weight loss, just because the toxins are in there and your liver is working to clean all of that out. And I wonder if, even in my case, what I took to be like a side effect of the semaglutide was actually my body starting to work through some of those toxins, because again, it was not long term at all, and I felt better afterwards.
Absolutely, and so many people will just write it off as like, it was just a side effect, but it truly was your body trying to adjust and trying to eliminate and basically handle all of the the stuff coming out, because it is really remarkable. We do know that the more fat you carry, the more toxic loaded your body is, and that is an absolute fact. So again, So the people that have a lot of weight to lose, they tend to experience that for a little bit longer, of longer periods of time.
She is Sherry Stokes, The Truth About Weight Loss on AM 1050 WLIP. And I think the next question on the list, Sherry, sort of will move us towards where we always want to leave people, and that's with some action items, which we're going to get to in a few minutes. But let's talk about getting professional medical help for weight loss and weight management, because we know that obesity is an epidemic in this country. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's so prolific everywhere. That we're really to the point where it's not just cosmetic. Oh, I'd love to lose 20 pounds and fit in my skinny jeans. It's like life or death, heart disease, diabetes, these type of things.
Absolutely. I was asked that question the other day, when should somebody get help? And the problem is that we live in a very reactive medical system. We wait, we go in to see our doctors every year. We have these, typical labs that are drawn, and as the labs are very like end stage, to diagnosis. So we're waiting for the disease to happen so that we can react with a medication, versus let's be proactive. Let's really get a handle on what our health is right now and see what we can do now to prevent, you having to go on, 1 to 5 medications down the road. So my response always to that is it's never too late to really see someone who understands how to not only lose weight, but understands how to define, your health, looking at different aspects, and whether that be metabolic health, whether it be gut health, what about your hormones, taking a step back and really listening to your body. Do you feel good? Do you feel good most days? Or, are you tired all throughout the day? I mean, there's so many things that go into it, but it's really about, again, listening and knowing where to position yourself so you can be ahead of the game and proactive.
I've said it many times. It bears repeating, I think. I would have loved to have been better educated as to why, not so much the what. I mean, I think we get the what. You're supposed to eat healthy, eat your greens, get your proteins, but more the why. And maybe this gets kind of off in another tangent, but like the gut health aspects of it, or whatever the case may be. Like I was flashing back as you were talking to a conversation I had with my pediatrician back in the day as my weight started to balloon up, and his suggestion was, "Oh, go ride your bike." Well, that's fine. And my answer was, well, I do go ride my bike, right?
Right.
Like there was no nutritional advice in that. And maybe it wasn't his expertise or whatever. But I feel like it's just that the education would be so foundational to nip it in the bud early in life.
Oh my gosh, that is it's exactly that. You're not hearing it from anybody, so you just think it's a high weight. Oh, I don't like being overweight. It doesn't look good, but nobody knows what's going on in the inside. Literally, chronic disease is building as, every second of every day. It's unbelievable, because I had a call with a younger teenager, last week or so, and she kept thinking just about the weight, but she already was type 2 diabetic. She had high cholesterol. She was at risk for fatty liver disease at that age. So it's really understanding that your health is significantly compromised when you're at a specific weight.
Sherry, always a lot more we could delve into on a lot of these topics, but I know that we always want to wrap things up with some practical recommendations, give some action items, as we like to say, talking about semaglutide, talking about metabolic health and those topics. So what do you think? What are some takeaways that we can get from this?
Yeah, so I would say, really, if you want to look at your metabolic health, hopefully people kind of have a good idea if they are healthy or if they are unhealthy. But some of the, I guess, signs would be you are on certain medications, right? If you're being treated for high cholesterol or high blood pressure, that's metabolic dysfunction. So taking that information as an opportunity to, now I should look at other ways to improve my health. Some other things would be just, how do you feel every day? Do you have energy? If you don't, what are some of those little things that you can change? Should I go for a walk every day? What can I call my friend to schedule some time and just, laugh and have fun? So I just think like those little things are really, really important that we get away from. And I will always go back to the diet, because I just think it's really important to emphasize that if you are eating mainly a processed diet, it's going to be really hard to really reverse a lot of these things. You'll have to try and work a lot harder. If you can switch to mainly a whole foods diet, it's really going to change things very quickly.
It's difficult for me to sort of overstate the difference of my lifestyle now and how I feel just day to day now from when I started at Way Less MD and Wellness way back in January of 2019. I mean, I feel like a different world, and it really was for me. And I know you do too, have a passion to sort of share that with people. I can't necessarily express it with words. I need people to experience it for themselves. And so that's why we do things like Truth About Weight Loss and tell you about Way Less MD and Wellness, just to overcome a lot of the misperceptions that are out there. It's in my brain. There's one celebrity who is very large and in charge, and you can't tell her or her fans anything the opposite. I saw one say, Sherry, well, she dances on stage. She must be in good shape. And I'm going, yeah, but, and that's not necessarily an indicator of anything. So that's why we do what we do with Truth About Weight Loss, is to overcome those misconceptions out there.
Absolutely. I mean, that is what it's all about. Just getting people to think differently, getting them to hear things that they wouldn't normally hear when they're going in, and seeing their practitioners. So that's, if there's just one little thing that you can change, that is meaningful. That's going to push you down the spectrum.
And the minute or so we have left, I want to, of course, plug Way Less MD and Wellness, Southport Plaza in Kenosha, the local clinic, but you've got all sorts of clinics around now. And waylessmd.com. I know you mentioned last week that a lot of people are sort of choosing the virtual options when it comes to Way Less MD, and that means you can do it from anywhere, Sherry.
Yes, absolutely. So all of our programs are 100% virtual. So we work with people all over. And as you stated, we are offering franchise opportunities. So I franchised last year, towards the end of last year, and now we're building all over the nation. So it's really exciting. It
is really exciting. And I think it's a testimony to the Way Less MD and Wellness difference. This isn't the diet pills at the drugstore or the cabbage soup diet that you saw in the National Enquirer, whatever the case may be. Like these are unique health and weight loss protocols that Sherry has developed and that we're lucky enough to have in our own backyard, but that you're spreading all over the place, which is really awesome, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to get the information out there.
All right. Now, if people want to learn more, or maybe they want to set up a consultation, a discovery session, as we call it, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best way is to call our office at 262-226-2046. But they can also go to our website at waylessmd.com, and you can actually schedule an appointment there as well.
Very good. A lot of good information, Sherry. I always appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday morning, especially over a holiday weekend, and to share this information out there. And we're going to do it again. We'll do it again next Saturday morning with another great topic, and hopefully inform the public. It sounds like a plan to me.
Sounds like a plan to me. Thank you.
Very good. Sherry, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll catch up with you next Saturday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
It is the Truth About Weight Loss. You're listening to AM 1050 WLIP. Have a great weekend.